Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar here, Accelerating Growth with Product Qualified Leads. We have a lot of information to share with you today. My name is Travis. I run the growth team here at Aptrinsic. And we have with us today Mickey Alon, who is the Chief Product Officer and founder of Aptrinsic. Mickey has also founded a company called Terra, which was acquired by Marketo. So he's got a wealth of information to share with us today around how to grow your business and lead with your product. So before we get into, before I hand over the presentation to Mickey, what I'd like to share with you is that we will be sending this recording out to you within the next 24 hours. So don't feel the need to type feverishly at anything you want to remember. We'll be happy to send this out to you. And we will be saving time at the end for Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to either type them into the chat box like before, or feel free to post out on Twitter, and I'll be monitoring those as well. So with that, let's kick this off. I'll hand this over to Mickey, and thank you again for joining.
Thanks, Travis. Hi guys, thank you guys for joining. I'm happy to be here. So I wanted to start with going over some interesting facts that were published by Serious Decisions. First one is 98% of marketing qualified leads never result in closed business. Another interesting stat is 64% of salespeople's time is wasted on administrative around demand gen. This is telling us something is not completely tuned with marketing-led scoring models. Assuming marketing is judicious about which leads they are sending to sales development as follow-up, it means there should be a better way to drive conversion and model your leads. Let's first try to analyze a traditional customer acquisition model. In this model, marketing teams are focused on nurturing prospects from awareness to qualified leads, filling up the sales pipeline. The sales will reach out to qualified leads and turn them into opportunities. Once a deal is closed, the customer gets to basically use the product, and then sales passes the baton to customer success. So what's wrong with this picture? It looks pretty perfect. Not really. Looking at the customer journey, you can see it spans between different silos, which doesn't really fit the buyer's expectation anymore and result in longer processes. The customer pain point and need that drove the customer to actually into your funnel get lost in that journey. This often leads to customer expectation gaps, which falls into sales and customer success to deal with. The analogy I like to use is that telephone game where you whisper a story to a group of people, one person at a time, to see how much it's changed at the end. A similar phenomena often happens in MQL-driven pipeline, where the leads and opportunities you create often look very different from the users you built your product for. And the gist of it is that sales and marketing alignment around MQLs can result in having the wrong goals in place. Let's have a look on the marketing side. Marketing automation nurture users over time until they become qualified by lead scoring mechanism. And usually it becomes like relentlessly emailing users or getting them to complete a form or a gated content or a sequence of gated contents. But if you think about it, how qualified is someone just because they fill out a form or open few emails? Most lead scoring models overweight activities. Marketing sometimes tend to game the system to achieve the MQL goals. So send enough nurturing emails or run enough webinars and you'll MQL everyone, which is not gonna really make your sales really happy about that. You also probably heard about account-based marketing, which is becoming a top of mind for marketers. Now, I'm a big fan of ABM, and it's certainly a more effective way to reach out people that are most likely to buy in your product. I think you should adopt account-centric approach, but ABM in the marketing automation land doesn't deviate much from the traditional MQL tactics. Another phenomenon I see in some companies is that product teams are not part of that acquisition process. This makes marketing, sales, and product alignment a common challenge. We all remember those high intense meetings where sales don't really make their numbers, those disagreements around lead qualification coming from marketing, and how suddenly you discover you have issues with a product that just the day before was getting praised by the same team. In other words, this model doesn't really hold product teams accountable for growth, and therefore would not make growth a priority in the backlog. And that model also create that pressure on marketing to really stand in the quota and sometimes just fill your pipeline with irrelevant leads. I always like to use this quote since I think it's not something that we see sporadically. I personally experienced the same challenges whether I was running a young company or as part of a fast-growing company like Marketo. I think it's a pervasive problem in our industry, which many product leaders are starting to talk about. And Jitu Patel at CPO at Box said at our event that building immersive product experiences that people love is the key to customer retention and growth. But wait a minute, how can I really create product experience for prospects or customers if they're not using my product? How can companies align their product strategy with their business strategy and drive growth? Let's try to answer that, and let's define what is product-led growth strategy. So product-led growth strategy is an action plan that describes repeatable and scalable processes for how a company acquires, retains, and grows customers by leveraging its product as the main customer acquisition and communication channel. And in my recent post, I explained why product-led growth is rapidly being adopted by SaaS companies. And here's a quick summary. We're seeing the rise of empowered buyer, the customization of B2B software where prospects expect to try before they buy. So they can make more informed decisions with regards to your product. They can quickly understand what it delivers. And it's a proven strategy that enables product-driven businesses to scale exponentially, reducing their customer acquisition cost, and over time, increasing the customer lifetime value. It also puts your prospect on a fast track to adopt your product, realize its value, and becoming a paying customer. And eventually, it aligns product roadmap with priorities and priorities with growth. And we can see there's various very famous companies using that strategy, including Atlassian, Slack, Box, InVision, Asana. This is becoming a widely adopted strategy. Let's look again the same diagram, but just this one is describing a product-led growth strategy. And let's analyze the new customer acquisition flow. You can first see this is a cross-functional strategy. The marketing teams are focused on awareness and driving signups. They use product usage data to drive those engagement and content. The sign up to a demo or a trial becomes the integration point where all teams align and measure. Let's dive into the trial period. In the trial period, which I also like to call as the first mile of product, you can see that cross-functional teams are involved, marketing, sales, and product this time. Marketing teams are focused on educating and nurturing with value-driven messaging, webinars, and relevant case studies. In case of B2B, sales teams are focused on engaging the most relevant prospect based on their profile, company data, and usage behavior. The product usage contains the most accurate and current buyer intent if you compare that just to a website click or form submit. Product teams are focused on measuring, experimenting with user onboarding, and continuously drive users to realize value while using the product. They become more accountable for adoption and growth, and therefore make growth a priority in the product backlog. Let's define what is a product qualified lead. In a nutshell, product qualified leads are qualified leads that demonstrated buying intent based on product interest, usage, and behavioral data. PQLs provide a more accurate method of tracking customer journeys from sign up to cross-sell and upsell. This is a key metric for any company that's transitioning to a product-led growth strategy. And I've illustrated these two funnels showing the traditional way and the new way using PQL strategy. As said, PQL is a cross-functional framework, and the models will vary from product to product and from B2C to B2B. I've added a few basic metrics you'll want to track and qualify your leads with. Let's go over them real quick. First, we'll start with user and account profile. Using demographics and firmographics such as company size, industry, and revenue will help sales focus on most relevant accounts. Adding behavioral metrics will help you measure and discover converting behaviors, including feature usage and frequency. Measuring engagement, whether it's in-app and messaging, guides, or email, can indicate the customer stage in the journey. Tracking metrics that indicates package limits, for example, can be an immediate qualification signals. All these metrics will roll up into your PQL model and show you what the customer is and what action to take. The last one is basically a support metric that I use as a placeholder for all those one-on-one interactions that might be stored in your support tool or CRM. It can be a simply an indication that that user has reached out to support or sales and can be accelerated throughout this funnel. So I've summarized the 5 pillars to accelerate growth using PQL, which I hope you'll find useful as a framework. Let's start with the first one. Sorry for the typo, but I'm gonna fix it when you send the slide. The first one is become a product-led company. You want to make sure that marketing, sales, and product teams are aligned behind the product and core personas the product serves. Make sure product leadership is behind and make growth a high priority in product initiative. As product leaders, start with the product, have development resources focus on customer acquisition and retention. It's easiest to start with when you're in product management. Second one is around sales. Drive prospects to sign up, around marketing, sorry. Don't exhaust them with outbound nurturing and gated content. If you're not providing free trials, make sure you offer demos and short videos that illustrate the value of your product. The product is the best sales tool you have. It's also the best way for your customers to realize what your product solves and how can they benefit from it. The third one is about sales. Train your sales team to understand the core use cases your product helps with. Your sales team has to become a trusted advisor and really understand the pain points of your customers. They need to have use case oriented discussions and not just address pricing, which sometimes ends up with some zero gain. Arm your sales with the right pricing and packaging, and make sure your customer see clearly the value behind pricing model and when and why they should upgrade. Set the right metrics behind these features as part of your PQL model. So if you can see based on the usage, if they hit the threshold, and then you can actually accelerate them on the funnel. A simple example for that will be just daily active users or specific features that you're limiting in your packaging. The fourth one is measuring adoption and PQLs that will help you learn about your customers. Focus on different areas of the funnel and always make sure your first mile of product is optimized. You might be surprised to discover that your prospective customers, despite the big potential and purpose of what your service stands for, they want to know what will immediately benefit them. As you probably know, they want both the simple and powerful, and it's your job to find the right balance between features and levers. Using in-app engagement with every release and targeting different new users versus power users is key to nurture your customers and introduce new features in a contextual and relevant way. All those onboarding activities need to feed back to your PQL model and can really indicate what the customer is in their journey. The last one, but not least, is about the data. Data accessibility is key for a successful PQL model. We want to empower product sales and marketing teams with an easy way to access PQL and product usage data. It really helps expedite decision-making and uncover opportunities across teams. So today you can unlock the potential of your product's data to make informed rollout decisions, measure success, and drive growth. So to wrap it up, here's a quick summary of the benefits of product-led growth strategy. First one is aligned with how customers want to buy and experience your product. Leading with your product allows you to really build immersive product experiences to demonstrate value to each individual in a scalable way. Scale your customer acquisition using PQL model and tap into their buying intent with much more accurate and current data. Become a customer and product experience-centric organization is key to growth. And the last but not least, build innovative products that people love to use. And we at Aptrinsic believe that adoption is the best cure for retention and growth. Thanks, guys. This is basically a summary of the product-led go-to-market strategy, and we'll go for a few questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Mickey. All right, gang, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'll take a look at what's being posted out on Twitter. So go ahead and post the questions in there now. See, we've got a couple comments coming in. So Mickey, so one of the questions we have here is being asked, we don't offer a free trial today at our company. Is this a prerequisite for using PQLs and taking advantage of a product-led strategy?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I think PQL model is relevant for cross-sell and upsell as well. It's just a matter where you want to focus your efforts. Customer acquisition versus retention and growth, that's the balance you need to make. And I think the trial is not a must. But over time, you do want to enable trials and demos if you're in a competitive market.
Okay, oh, great, thank you. See the second one here. I want to introduce the PQL concept to my organization, but not sure where to start. Who in my organization would I work with to make this happen?
Great, so I think first of all, be the champion of that transition. Start with product teams, I think, and then get marketing and sales on board. You need to kind of make it a transitional process and make sure that you have all the proper tools set. And then, as I said in the webinar, I think the key factor is to really demonstrate how you can start by demoing the value of that proposition and then making that data accessible to all teams so you can align behind the product and become a customer-centric, customer experience-centric organization.
Okay. Someone's asking if they missed the beginning of the webinar, will you be sending out a recording? You bet. Yes, we will. Another question here we've got. If I understand you correctly, are you saying the content-based marketing is not working well anymore? Are prospects not positively reacting to that outreach anymore? We need to get them into the product?
That's a great question. I think that as we illustrated, content is still working very much. But the thing is, you want to make sure that the customer sees the value in your product. Content is great for awareness. And then obviously you need to tune content as when I start a trial and I start to experience your product, you want that content to be driven by the values of the product and to be triggered by my usage. So in different phases, I would use and tune the content differently, and not necessarily I will gate every piece of content. And the last piece of you want to try them to nurture them into a sign up. Once you get a sign up, they'll be more receptive to your content, and you'll get more visibility to their intent. So all we're saying, continue to build great content, but you'll be able to target better, I think, once you drive more signups.
That's a great question. Thank you for that one. We have a follow-up here. Can you give us a real-life example of how you've seen this in a product?
Great question. Thanks. So we've seen many examples of that. First of all, the way they define product qualified leads. In many companies, for example, with Anadot, for example, they do a POC. It's not a trial, but they still look at the main metrics of account level. They roll up these metrics to account. They see key features being used. They validate that the prospect is going through the right journey, and start with each stage adopting the relevant features at that stage. During that trial, that prospect will also get nurtured with relevant content, with webinars and case studies at that period. I hope that answers your question.
Great. All right. Well, let's see if there are any other questions. We'll give it another few seconds here. And so if you have any final questions for Mickey, please send them over. We'll embrace this awkward silence just for a little longer. All right, great. Thank you, everyone. This has been very helpful. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We will be sending out a recording as well as the slides, so you can take a look afterwards. If you have any questions, feel free to email me directly. You can contact me at travis@aptrinsic.com. All right, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.